Shiva, it's happening. Thanks for making this happen.
Thank you.
Taking time to see me.
I'm like emotional about it. I don't know why.
Really?
Yeah.
Very sweet of you. I came in last minute to Austin and I said, hey, want to come hang out on the pod? You showed up.
But it's also because I think you and I have been, at this point, we're pioneers in the wellness world. And I feel like things are shifting finally. And I always say that I'm pre-goop. I think you're pre-goop too, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Goop came along and lifted us up.
Yes, totally.
Yeah, pre-goop.
Pre-goop. I feel like I'm goop
Pre-goop
grandma,
and post-goop.
OG goop. OG goop.
Yeah, God bless goop.
God bless goop. But I always say that's how long I've been doing this.
Yeah.
Before it was chic.
For sure.
And you
For sure.
too. Like,
right. And that's even like you talk about Gwyneth. She's pre-goop.
True.
She was doing this
I've
for
known
years.
Gwyneth and I always, like when she was going through that crazy thing with that, I forget that man, she went through some, I texted her, I was like, I'm sorry. Like she genuinely is like.
She's a real deal.
She's a real deal. And she responded right away. It wasn't like anything. And I haven't seen her.
No, she's she's deep in the wellness like we are in the best of ways. Just life. It's a lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle.
Whether people are paying attention or not.
Yes.
So let's start. What's your origin in wellness? I want to know what's the backstory. I know who you are today, but let's go back.
Thank you for asking such an important question. I'm half Iranian, half American, and that makes sense because I grew up in Iran, but we escaped during the revolution, which was very traumatic. So I went overnight from like having everything to nothing.
Yeah,
like
literally.
1970. Yeah, like the 1980, like around then. Like literally my mom woke me up and was like, get up, we're leaving. You can bring one thing. So as a child at 10, you're still kind of, I bring that up because when I was, after the birth of my first daughter at 25, I had my daughter young. I was so tired. I could not recover. I looked horrible. And I went to a dermatologist because I have this big patch, like a bruise on my back. And I thought I burned myself like sitting on a radiator. I made up some story in my head. And he said, you need to go see a rheumatologist like today. I didn't even know what a rheumatologist was. At that point, I was an actress, young mom. In LA, I went to see a rheumatologist, Dr. Bluestone in Beverly Hills. I don't think he's there anymore. And he sat me down and my mom, and he said I had a year to live. He said, because the scleroderma on your back is hardening, it's going towards your lungs, and you have lupus and rheumatoid arthritis. And with this combination, you probably have about a year.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was my entry into.
Yes. So you hear that news, and that's a full-on sentence, right?
It's a sentence. It's a sentence. And my mom, I remember, was crying. And there's something in me, Dr. Cole, which I think you and I see in each other. But even at that young age, I was like, no, this is not my story.
Yeah.
No, I'm not accepting it.
Right.
Not accepting.
And a lot of people sadly do. They don't know any better, and they're trying to do the best they can.
Yes. And that's why diagnoses are so.
Yeah. The power of words.
The power of words. Which, yeah.
So you didn't accept it at that point.
I didn't accept it, but I was still sick. I was so sick. I mean, I was like, God, this mothering, I didn't know what was wrong with me. I just thought it was motherhood. I was like, God, this is hard.
Yeah. Well, well, it's interesting because there's a lot of studies that shows that autoimmunity with pregnancy, that, I mean, there's a lot of reasons for that, but one of the main ones is just the fluctuations of hormones postnatal can really be a trigger for autoimmune conditions.
And it goes into remission, I guess.
Yes, during the pregnancy.
During the pregnancy, which is interesting
because
too.
Because estrogen is immunomodulating, so when you have a stability of that, which is why even postmenopausal women can see a lot of autoimmune conditions go away. So you were still, obviously you had these symptoms.
Yes.
What did you do?
As you know, it's not one magic pill. It's not like a quick find. But I did have a friend, Eve Gerber, bless her heart. We don't talk anymore. I think because of COVID stuff, we don't talk anymore. But she did at that time. She said, you should go see Dr. Saram Khalsa in Beverly Hills. And this is 1996, 1997. I mean, literally so long ago. And I went to see him. He was a Sikh, doctor. holistic MD, regular MD that started with holistic, started doing more holistic. And he said, I am going to help you feel better within a year. So it was like those two diagnoses.
Yeah. So he had such a positive light around it. Like, yes, this is what it is. We're not denying it, but let's heal from it.
Let's heal from it. And he did a, blood work and saw I had like no vitamin D. This is back in the days we didn't really know much.
Yeah. Who ran vitamin D in the 90s?
Who ran that? And that affects your hormones, your mental state. And, this is pre-internet too. I would go. And after seeing him, look, it's like I always tell people, healing is not linear. It's circular. So you take a step forward, 2 steps back, 3 steps forward. But I would spend so much time in the library at the Santa Monica Homeopathic Pharmacy in Santa Monica, going, like trying to heal myself too, because there were things that doctors wouldn't understand, that I wouldn't understand. And, you become your own medicine person, really.
Right. So a year later, like what, I know healing is non-linear, but like, where are you now and how long did it take you to get to that?
Oh my gosh. Well, it took so long. And he, I think he was able to get me to a certain level where I didn't die.
Right. You went from not dying to living.
Yes. But it definitely has not been until the last 7 years, 8 years where I have gotten to the root, the root cause.
Yeah. So you're saying, and this is a good way for someone that has polyautoimmunity like that, more than one autoimmune condition. I always tell patients, like every 2 to 3 months, and this is most cases, not all cases, but every 2 to 3 months, I want to be able to look back and say, yeah, you're noticeably better than the previous 2 to 3 months. And they're able to say that. And you're building on that. And like you said, it's nonlinear. Flare-ups can happen, God forbid. Setbacks can happen.
Right.
But when you look back off of bigger chunks of time, like months and certainly years, it's measurable on labs, and then just knowing you feel better.
And how you feel. And I think I'm at an age now where I don't even do I do labs maybe for hormones, but I don't really do it for autoimmunity.
True. Yeah, when you're stable,
stable. And I know it's almost, again, the diagnose, like I don't want, it's like, no. Like I was diagnosed with Lyme a few years ago, but I just went, no, I don't want, I'm like, no. And I'm able to keep strangely.
Well, I think that's a good wisdom to not, if you know your body and if you're feeling good, and we don't need to go.
I mean, listen, if you don't know, yes, in the beginning you need the information. Information is power and knowledge is power. But I'm saying like for me, I want to know a little, but I don't.
I think what you're saying is deep wisdom, because sometimes we have to tell patients, no, we're not going to test. Like at a certain point, they get kind of almost, I don't want to say addicted to testing, but they get kind of hyper-focused and it's anxiety driven. And we have to say, no, like you're fine. You feel good. We're not going to go be orthorexic and obsessive about it.
And your body is your barometer, right?
Yes.
Like the numbers could be so bad on the blood test, but I'll be like, well, I feel good.
Yeah. And line markers too. It's like, those are the type of things where I think there's a lot of, just because your body's creating antibodies to Lyme doesn't necessarily mean it's an active Lyme.
Right.
And sometimes doctors, with the best of intentions, they don't necessarily know how to interpret the labs, and they are putting labels on people, and then the patient's like, dang, I have this, and this.
Yeah.
And it's like power of words again.
Power of words.
Even from natural doctors.
And going to the root cause. As we know now, it's usually parasite, mold, emotional stuff. Like we go to the root causes, right? So I feel like since I have started to do these cleanses on myself and a certain lifestyle and diet too, I have to say I was a vegetarian before it was fashionable. I was almost vegan for 25 years because I loved animals so much. I refused to eat any animal. And that's actually one of my greatest regrets, is that that I was pregnant with 2 children without animal products. And I really regret that.
So tell people why that is. That's
because, well, number one, all the enamel fell off my teeth after I gave birth.
That's a sign. That's a sign. Funny, but not funny. Not funny.
I know.
But,
but also how the nature, it'll take from my bones, will leach my bones.
She needs that.
to give to my child, which I'm glad it did. But that's one one thing.
If that happens, yeah.
Yes,
pivot.
but luckily the body, I keep telling people who come to me with, I'm like, the body is miraculous and it heals and it wants to heal. The body wants to heal. When I started to make that reprogramming in my head too, somebody said it's once like a ship or a boat that's on the ocean, and it's like once you get it stable, it wants to be stable.
It wants to survive and
it
thrive.
wants to survive. Yeah.
So you saw that their teeth, you were not eating the way that you wanted to.
Yeah.
So in hindsight, it's always 20/20. You do the best you can with the information you have.
Yes.
It's like when Maya Angelou said, when you know better, you do better. You knew at that time, okay.
Yes.
You thought you were doing the best thing for your...
Well, right. Well, I know at one point, I mean, thank God I breastfed my girls to about a year, but I did give them, I gave my first daughter soy because I thought, oh my God, I'm not giving them which I knew regular dairy formula was not good. But now, there's so many things I would do different. And, I started to get wise, like before the curve, like I was buying raw milk probably 10 years ago in LA, like behind a back alley. Yeah. Because it was like Amish milk that was crossing state lines from where you're from. And I would have been arrested if I,
Well, they say that in this election, that's one of the reasons why Pennsylvania went the way that it did, because the Amish were like, no, this is government overreach. We can sell our dang raw milk.
Yes.
This is not controversial.
Yes.
Interestingly, growing up in Pennsylvania, my parents used to drive to the local farm, and we'd pull our own milk out of this massive thing and just put a couple of dollars in the little bucket, and that's how we got our milk.
Oh my God.
That way. Probably wasn't like grass-fed and all the best, but it was like still raw dairy.
Yeah. And as we know, those enzymes are so crucial. And it's been an interesting journey, just to see just to see how people are awakening too. Texas, it only became legal like 2 years ago.
Really?
Yeah. Like it literally only just became legal.
Yeah. But we're making some ground.
Yeah, we're making some ground.
So you shifted. Tell us, you've talked about this before, your daughter and what her health journey as a parent.
Yes. Oh,
what happened when she was 2?
It's such a struggle because I think that's the hardest thing as a parent. You never feel like you're doing a good job.
Yeah.
And my daughter, and I started to awaken when she was born. I had a natural birth with her, and I, refused to do some of the things at birth. I was really waking up at that time. There's 9-year difference between my first daughter and my second. And then, but at the age of 2, she hadn't had any immunizations, but she went to the pediatrician with somebody else, and they gave her DTaP, and then she had an injury from that. So I literally saw her change. From, and I don't know if every child that happens to, I think you might have a predisposition or something.
I do think it's a genetic, and there's no way of knowing, but when you look at family history of autoimmunity, you look at these methylation, detox gene variants, HLA gene variants. I mean, you look, there's no studies on this yet, but you look at human leukocyte antigens, the way your body handles biotoxins like bacteria, viruses, and mold. We have people that they get exposed to Epstein-Barr virus or mold or a bacteria, and it triggers an autoimmune condition. And then many people without that gene variant, they go into a moldy home or they get Epstein-Barr virus and they recover, they're fine. We saw that with COVID too, right?
Right.
People recover from COVID, they're fine. Some people get long haulers.
Yes.
Right? So there's it's bio-individuality with
different thing. And of course I blame myself because I was not,
you did what everybody told you to do.
Right.
And there's no way of knowing.
I'm just saying, like, you think back, like I could have done this during the pregnancy or that.
Yeah.
But yes, it was very painful time in my life because I was getting divorced from her father. She was exhibiting that, and all my autoimmune stuff came back.
The stress of it.
That's when I started actually eating more animal products.
What were her symptoms? What did she...
I mean, you look at photos and you can see it in her eyes. It's really wild. Like you really see it in her, just like a light, almost.
How is she doing today, obviously, through the years? Like
better. Of course, that's, I feel like we've healed a lot of that, but then now we're dealing with like a lot of Lyme stuff.
Yeah.
So I feel like
make the body, but people with these gene variants are more sensitive to natural things, right? Like bacteria, viruses, mold are natural, quote unquote, but they're stressful to the immune system, and not everybody can recover the way that other people can.
Right.
So, I mean, we live in such a world where bringing that up is controversial to some people. Like,
I know, it's
what's
wild.
your take on that? Right, the whole concept of medications.
I think like everyone should choose for themselves. Like I definitely don't think you shouldn't not be able to go to a school if you don't have, because like you said, like some people are different. I think we should test to see who's.
Yeah, we need some standardized
testing to see. I mean, I have a theory that I may have gotten the autoimmune things from smallpox vaccine because I lived in Iran and we had to get the smallpox vaccine, which is gnarly. I don't know if you've ever had smallpox vaccine, but you have a scar on your arm.
Yeah.
And I wonder, I think Dr. Saram said that could have been what had led to my autoimmune.
Well, you look at the amount of even, like, we just are exposed to so much more today than we were years ago. Even the kids today get so much more vaccines than we did when we were younger.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. It's like, yes, when you look at what we had, and now it's like 72 or more.
Yeah. And it's not just that. It's our water, it's our food, it's our soil, it's our stress.
Right.
All of the things.
Right. When you combine all the toxic load and not able to detox.
Proverbial stress test, modernity is like, we just are like, it's
tragic. It breaks my heart that like our fertility right now is at stake. Because my older daughter is like, 27 and I'm always like, just have a baby. I mean, I've been telling both my kids to have kids early, like really early since they were teens, because I know I'm like, it's harder to have children right now.
Yeah.
The fertility situation, you know.
What do you have going on with what's going on lately in your life professionally? I heard something about water, teaching people about water.
Yes.
I want to learn all about it.
I'm very passionate about water. So I mean, many of us are, of course. But I lived in Los Angeles. I was born in LA by the ocean. We lived in Iran and then came back to LA. So I grew up by the ocean. But it wasn't until I moved to rural Texas that I really had this like love affair began with water, because our creek has been dry due to the drought, but we are on aquifers in Texas. Many people don't know this, but we have water beneath us. So like during meditation and during walks, I really wanted to connect to that water. And so I also had this like download that water is actually a deity. Like it really made sense to me. And then when I started deep diving into, water priestesses, and at one time we had water priestesses by all the springs and the wild springs and the wells, and we don't do any of that anymore. We're so cruel to water now.
Yeah.
It's like tremendous. Or damming up. I mean, the thing that leads to disease is stagnation. And when we dam these rivers up, they are getting stagnant, and the fish die and the plants die, and then our drinking water is, basically inert, has nothing beneficial in it.
Yeah.
So this water course came from that, and it's basically how we can magnetize our inner waters and the outer waters around us in our communities. Like the lymph system, which doesn't have a pump, but it's our greatest river in our body, and it needs to be flowing. Otherwise it gets stagnant and we get sick. So like, how do you do that?
How do people know they may have lymph issues, the sort of water system of the body?
Well, beauty, I'm in the beauty business too. So that the number one way I think most women realize is that they become so puffy.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happened to me before I awakened to the lymph system situation or detoxing my liver. I remember being so puffy. Like I just wouldn't recognize myself. But imagine all these so I think that's one good thing with like the gua shas and the beauty movement, is awakening people to the lymph system.
Yeah.
Because if your lymph system is moving, you're not.
Any other tips if someone feels like they're sluggish lymph-wise, they're feeling a little puffy, swollen, what would you recommend?
The things to do are dry brushing, which the Ayurvedic culture has been doing, for 5,000 years. There's a reason for that. Getting that lymph system moving. Yeah. Trampolines, walking. Yeah. I do this like Chinese method. It's almost like Tai Chi, where I tap beneath my armpits and because I think we need to keep this moving.
What's the Chinese method? How do people learn about that? Is it?
There's definitely well, in my course I have a whole section. Well, in the course I have different waterways, like your womb is the ocean, your so beautiful. Your river is the lymph. Thank you. The cervix is like another area that women have no clue about. Yeah. Cervix is like fascinating. Like it only opens 3 times in your life. People don't even, there's so much there. And our own anatomy that we know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would look into some Taoist practices. You can even Google it. And it's like this thing where you hit the meridians and it like really
sort of like acupressure type.
Yeah. That you can
tapping.
do yourself.
Yeah. And it sounds like through the course, you're kind of correlating like the hermetic concept of as above, so below, right? You're seeing aspects of the human body and its connection to water.
Yes, definitely. And it's almost, like water, if you look at it in the wild, it's always vortexed. And so is the water our spinal column, or if you pee, it's spiraling. Rivers, like water needs to be DNA. Yes, it's the spiral, which I think is, related to the feminine and the deity and the world. And so it's this concept of, I'm sure you've heard how you can make your water more vibrant by stirring it.
No, tell everybody.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know much about it.
Oh, okay. So vortexing your water will give you more nutrients and be more hydrating if you stir it. I mean, there's like, I have a wand that I have that's called Amanda wand, and you can stir it, and then the water is actually going to fulfill and quench your cells even more. And then there's, one step up to that is hydrogen water, which now they say cures glaucoma and, many issues and diseases. So it's like all these things we can do with water. But number one is to filter your water and make sure you're not getting the chlorine and the fluoride. How incredible they want to take fluoride out of water.
So radical, right? So we've been talking about this since the 90s.
I mean, yes.
Yeah.
It's blowing my mind.
Yeah.
Blowing my mind.
I know.
That fluoride in the water is actually something
So for people that don't know, can you talk about this?
Yes. Yeah. So fluoride is actually a biochemical that was used in warfare in World War II.
And then they had all these chemicals and they had to put them somewhere.
They had an excess of chemicals, so they decided to fluoridate our water. And yes, I'm sure the tiniest amount can prevent cavities, but the amount that's in there now actually leads to calcification. So the first thing that gets calcified is your pituitary pineal gland, which is our, in our
connection
compass
to spirituality.
Yes.
It's how humans have spiritual experiences.
Right.
And wisdom and intuition.
Makes you wonder.
Gut feelings. I know.
Why?
Is this just an inconvenient, or is this a convenient thing, or was this a planned thing?
I know.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah, because science is substantiating, we don't want that to be calcified.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you start drinking real wild water, like spring water, I feel like I get more wild, like connected to my wildness when I'm drinking water that's actually wild. I mean, it's pretty extraordinary.
Yeah.
And you can go to findyourspring.com to find a natural spring near you. Because in America, and this is when I come back to America, because sometimes I'm like, I want to move to Europe. I want to move. And then I'm like, but you know what? America still has wildness. And we have wild springs. We are so lucky here, and that's what I hope this administration will protect, our wild lives. And,
let's hope. Let's pray.
Yeah.
So the water filter to get rid of these toxins. Any specific filters you like? Any pro tips for water filters?
I mean, you can go just if you're on a budget. I think there's like the one that a lot of people get. Berkey, Berkey. And then
AquaTrue's good.
Right.
Yeah.
But the one thing you should do after, which I'm sure you tell your patients, is then to remineralize the water, because the water has been denatured, right? It has nothing in it. So you want to add minerals. So we have a well at our house that, of course, I tested it, and I was getting anyways, our well water actually tested pretty well. So I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah.
But if you want to go really far in, there's Aphora, which is a water company that ozonates their water, and it's out of California, I think.
Yeah. You know who told me about that? Who was it that told me about this? Luke Story.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I think they have that water at their house.
Like a massive.
Of course, Luke would.
No, he's set up. He's here now.
Yeah.
All of you guys.
Oh, yeah.
Here. You all have migrated
Well, it happened.
Fleeing.
That's when I believe in God, because I honestly, and Texas was never on my radar. Like I said, I wanted to move to Europe.
Yeah.
And then I met a Texan right before COVID. And then when I met him, we bought land right away, which I never do. I'm very rational and very practical, But with him, we bought this land out in the middle of nowhere, And then like 6 months later, like COVID hit.
Wow.
And then I was like driving cross country when the whole world had shut down with my kid and my animals. And I was like, oh, this is God. I understand why, why Texas now. Because it was such a different world.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Nothing shut down in our town.
Right. Same with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pennsylvania was kind of middle, but I lived in the country, so it's as if it didn't exist.
Right.
And it was crazy because everyone was fine.
Everyone was fine.
Everyone was fine.
I mean, I'm not saying like I had COVID.
Yeah,
it was horrible and it was awful and I would never want to go through
the park. But
No, but it was a very interesting time to see that
different
like,
way of
life. Did it cross state lines? I kept wondering because
and then you go to Santa Monica.
It was a ghost town. And
Santa Monica was like, it was like Gilead. It was like shut down. People were pooping on the streets with face masks.
Oh, yeah.
It was insanity.
It was insanity. And then I get to Texas and our plumber was like, yeah, we had a COVID party last week. If you all want to come get your COVID.
Nashville was the same way. It was like Tennessee was, it was interesting to now in hindsight think what everyone went through and to see the way the different states did it. Fascinating.
Wow, fascinating.
A massive psyop.
By the way, it was a psyop, but I do believe like that first wave, I do believe all those people died. Like I believe like the first wave was some bioweapon, which we kept saying from the beginning, this is a lab situation.
Wuhan lab situation. Yeah.
Yeah. And now they've proven that was correct. That conspiracy was but I do really, of course, those people suffered and they died. It's not like that didn't happen. But yes, it was just such a different. And then, I don't even know if we're allowed to say the eye medication, but I was like popping that.
Oh, really? Yeah. Hey, people were doing all types of things. I was just having my vitamin C, vitamin D, getting outside in the sun. Eating well.
When I was in the sun, when I had COVID, awful, terrible, I felt like it was like it was like this superpower zapping the virus. It was very odd.
Yeah.
It felt like a very, like a battle, like a spiritual battle. It really felt like something like that.
And it was interesting to see how the human immune system for most people adapted and now it's mild, moderate for most people.
And now I just pray we're like good because that's like the worst, I think, when it's something unseen like that,
Yeah, absolutely. So like I talked to you a lot during those years, like 2020, like online.
I know. Thank you.
Likewise.
Thank you for being there.
Kind of, we saw the madness. Like, how do we make sense of this in real time?
Yes.
Yeah. So a lot of what I always say, like what was called misinformation, most of it was truth. And a lot of the truth was called misinformation, right? It's like the upside down. Upside
down.
Yeah.
I mean, truly, like you look at the countries like India and Africa, the ones that have the most population, and they were okay, relatively. Yeah. Because they gave them vitamin D, they gave them the eye medication, they gave them a kit.
And then you also look at the fact that the United States, like this current data shows that about 7% of the United States is metabolically healthy. So that's another variable too. Like 93% of America is not metabolically healthy.
Oh my gosh, that's awful.
So it's like you put that with a novel virus, it's like, we cannot handle it.
Is that
that's the
statistic right now?
Meaning 7% of people only fit the criteria of what metabolic health was. This is a conventional study. I'll put it in the show notes. But like normal triglycerides, normal HDL, normal fasting glucose, normal insulin, normal A1C, 7%.
That is wild.
Have normal numbers in this.
That's tragic. And they're all in Austin.
They're all walking around the rivers.
They're doing the ice baths. And
that's right. All the people, you're right. The 7% all moved to Austin pretty much.
Now, what do you think about ice for women? Because I'm not, like, I love to do it in the snow when I'm in the element, but I'm not drawn to it at all. I feel like it's bad for me. I feel like it can throw me into an autoimmune issue.
I've seen that. I think because it's a hormetic effect. It's a good stress, but you have to be careful when you have that. As we talked about earlier, estrogen and progesterone fluctuating, plus different systems fluctuating. You don't want to be aggressive with something like that. So it's similar to fasting, similar to sauna, similar to high intensity interval training, similar to ketogenic diets. Like more isn't always better. So it has to be judicious, has to be like your body, where are you at this point in your health journey? Because I have many telehealth patients, women that are going through brain fog, fatigue, autoimmune problems, inflammatory problems. That cold plunge actually really is good for them, but slow and slow.
Right.
Meaning higher temperature, lower time.
Yeah.
So, and then over time, slowly decrease the temperature, increase the time. And then only a few times a week and very few bouts. So guys can be a little bit more aggressive with the time without a problem.
Right.
But I've seen it overdone cause flare-ups or setbacks.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think that's the shadow side of the wellness world, right? Like we can see something and go too extreme. I mean, I've done that. I've done crazy. I did leech therapy at one point.
How was that?
I bet no one on your shows ever.
No one's ever talked about it. But I remember reading about it as a thing years ago in the 90s.
I think I have to say that if you are desperate and in enough pain, you will do anything.
That's true.
I mean, truly, I've had pain so bad that I've been like, I'll do anything at this point, without hurting anybody.
So what was it this involved? Putting leeches on your skin?
Yes, it's this woman she's like a Russian woman who's in...
This is getting better and better.
No, in LA. And God bless her, because during COVID, she was like so inspiring to me too. And so she also does magnet therapy, which is very interesting, magnet therapy. And the leeches, the leeches are actually one of the cleanest animals. They have their saliva is the closest thing to our blood. And it's fascinating because they still do it in Iran and many parts of the world. They still do leech therapy. So she basically put the leeches on the areas. She put some on my belly button, which was disgusting, and on my elbows because at that point I had pain. But it wasn't when the leeches were sucking my blood that was the worst part. It was after. Because what happens is your body detoxes then, and you ooze out of those bite marks like hours later, like a pussy ooze. Okay. It was pretty disgusting.
Would you do it again?
No. But I have to say,
do you feel like it was a needle mover for you though? And at the time,
you know what? I actually think I got more from her magnet therapy and her bodywork therapy.
So worth trying, but not a significant needle mover.
However, they do use her. She apparently she's like the plastic surgeon's secret weapon at Beverly Hills, because if there's scar tissue that's too small for hands, and they go to her and they use the leeches because the mouths are so tiny, so they can like break up scar tissue. Okay. So she's very popular. Oh yeah, she's like a popular beauty.
And the magnet, for people that don't know, what's the magnet therapy like?
Magnet therapy, I'm not so sure, but I guess it's like, again, an ancient modality where you put magnets on your body, and it's because we are magnetic, right? We're connected to the earth in a magnetic wave and field, and it's supposed to, I think, normalize and harmonize your internal frequencies. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So what do you think, speaking of that, you can make the connection to water. A lot of these quantum technologies that are said to shift the molecular structure of water positively. Are you familiar with any of those devices?
Like the Healy or the...
Yeah, the Lila Quantum. Lila Quantum. There's different brands out there.
Yeah, there's many brands. I know there's like big machines too. Like in Texas, I'm very blessed. I have a holistic vet, and she has this machine that she uses on people now, even though she's not supposed to. But it's like a frequency machine that heals tendons and muscles. Okay. So I don't know if that's what you mean.
Yeah, similar. It's just fascinating, the quantum study.
Well, I have a Healy, and I do like my Healy. I do. I don't know if you know about the Healy.
No, tell me about it.
It's like a little, I have it here. It's like it has kind of like a MLM marketing things, which I don't love. But I do like the machine. It was created by a German man, a scientist, who believed that, frequency is the future of medicine. And you can basically, it's really cool because you can run a scan on yourself and it will say, oh, your liver needs help, or your mental state needs help. And then you run those programs. So I have and my daughter, who's very sensitive, and is that she swears by it, because if she has leg pains from the Lyme, we will use like the joint bone one and it goes away. I mean, it's wild.
Yeah. I had Dr. Todd Obakaitis. Do you know him?
I've heard.
Yeah, he's in California somewhere, but he's a brilliant medical doctor, but he's a scientist, and he's just so smarter than most people. He's brilliant. One of the smartest people I know, but he really talks in deep language about what we're talking about: energy medicine, frequency medicine, resonance.
Well, it's the future. Yeah. I really do believe that, you know, and so much is frequency, isn't it?
Yeah. We talk about water. I mean, all of this is the frequency of water, the stagnation of it all. We're made up of energy. I mean,
and we're made up of water.
Yeah.
So imagine how much our bodies absorb You know, we're like mostly water. So that's why we're so affected by the moon. I also have a course on the moon because it's like the moon, you know, definitely affects our tides.
Yeah.
You know, just like the ocean.
Yeah. As above, so below again.
Yes.
For sure. Okay, we had an election not too long ago, and you and I have been talking about for years. We love Bobby K.
It makes me really emotional.
Yeah. I mean, really. So I haven't talked to you about it since then. Like, so
well,
a lot of years of praying.
I have to preface this by saying I used to have underground meetings at my house in LA that Bobby would hold meetings, you know, at our house, or I've had a couple, and he would talk to us about many things. And I remember, this is like 7 years ago or something, I remember thinking back then, if you ever run for president, I will drop everything and help you out. I literally I think I just said it to myself.
Yeah.
But, you know, so it's pretty incredible to see this. And then when he was still running for president, we did a benefit for him with Aubrey, and I got to serve tea at it because that's something I do as a tea ceremony.
Yeah. And
it was really like wild for me to see, like, here he is actually in the running.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think for those of us who've been, you know, I have a direct experience with what happened. And he, like, I guess the reason why it makes me emotional is because he made us feel like we weren't crazy, you know, for all the mothers. There is nothing harder than a mother with a child who is hurt or sick or struggling. There's nothing, I'm sorry, that is just the hard, I mean, there are many struggles and many things, but that is like the most anguish
and you're so marginalized for even bringing it up. Who do you have to go to?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Right?
And I mean,
some of us in functional medicine.
Censored and worse. I mean, I think I lost some business because I was one of the few people who just, you know, during COVID, who just said, I'm not doing that.
What's so interesting is that, like, the same culture that says believe the women when it comes to rape and sexual assault, don't believe hundreds of thousands, if not more, of mothers of women that are delegitimized, medically gaslit, and
it
shamed.
Goes back to, you know, pro-choice. My body, my choice. Like my child's body, our choice. Like that, it has to be, like, we have to, like, give some reverence to that.
Yeah, and I think people are waking up to that fact that, like, we were all like sheep and we are not going to take this anymore.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, what do you say to the people that, you know, they see me, see you, see other of us being friends with Bobby, know Bobby, post about his stuff, and they'll say, well, what do you think? Why do you trust Trump? Like, he's not a beacon of health. He's going to use Bobby. Anybody shut him out last time, he'll shut him out again.
I think I wept more than anyone when he won the first time around. I was like one of those people who thought, you know, and now I've done a 360. And I think part of that is because he's evolved. He's evolved and he's realized he can't have neocons. Listen, I got arrested 3 times during the Iraq war, or the American war with Iraq, because I knew in my bones there were no weapons of mass destruction. I always say, like, I don't know everything, but when I know something, I know it. Like, I knew 1,000%. I was like, this is a lie. There are no weapons there. We're going to kill Iraqi women and children and soldiers. And sure enough, now they're like, well, there were no weapons. But we got the oil wells, we got the stations, we got this, that. I mean, you think about it. Like, so I think with Trump,
we were marginalized for that too. Back in the day.
Back in the day.
We were anti-American for saying.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. I was so against the Bush and the neocons. I was like, there was something wrong with that bunch. And I think Trump has now said he is not dealing with the neocons. And they all supported
Kamala. Yeah, it's I think a massive inversion.
It just blows me away.
Someone who they called a war criminal, now they're like, we're happy for the endorsement. Like, what are we living in the weird? Am I the only one that's not remembering this?
Thank you. Yeah, because it's gaslighting. And then you start questioning yourself and you're like, wait, am I?
Well, that's why I think this is an interesting time, because it really wasn't so much like right or left anymore. It was like the system versus these ragtag independents that were all questioning different things, whether it was war, whether it was our health freedom, whether it was censorship and free speech. It was like whoever was questioning it were in a camp.
Yeah.
And then the people are like, no, this is the orthodoxy, go with it.
And it's mind-blowing. But you look at someone like Tulsi.
Yeah.
Who's, I really admire and respect her. I'm like, she's not a dummy. She's going to go where. So I don't think he's going to go back on his word. No.
I think there's too much at stake. I'd be shocked.
And I think he won because all of these people we're the sickest nation America, great America. I grew up, my grandpa was in the 2 wars. He was Purple Heart, like such an amazing man. And like I think of America like such a, beautiful, strong, but no, we're the sickest. We're like sick. So if we can bring back our healthy foods, our waters, our airs, our, oceans, our mental health, like if we have someone, can you imagine? This is the first time they put that on the table. Like in every election, I don't think that was ever an issue.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. We just need to I'm just praying because there's some deep systems here.
Deep systems, and like everything, there's gonna, I'm sure, they say when the water, you turn on a faucet, it's gonna run out rusty at first before it gets clear.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's a lot of gook. One of the things they're gonna do is release the JFK, the files, which I think it's like a time for America to, what is it called? Reckoning, like a reckoning,
massive reckoning.
Like our shadow, we are opening, pulling back the carpet.
Yeah.
Like actually releasing the files on who killed Bobby's father and uncle. I mean, that makes me like emotional. That's wild. And probably Martin Luther King and probably, all our great leaders.
Yeah, I hear you. And it is beautiful because I heard Bobby say recently, he prayed to God every day for 19 years. God, use me to help the kids specifically that are sick. And it took 19 years of diligent prayer for him to say, it happened in a way that I never thought it was going to happen. Someone I don't even necessarily agree with on lots of things.
Well, that's what I think about the courage that took, because the amount of hate that not only from his family, but from the whole, that's only faith in God would help you through those times, I'm sure.
I said to him, I was at an event like a year and a half ago, and he was early in his campaign, and I said, I feel like there's this spiritual undercurrent. And he said, I hear that in every place I go to. Everyone says that to me. And now it's way bigger than that. It's like there's people that otherwise would never have gone for him or cheering for him.
Yes. And that's amazing. One of the things when I came to Texas, because I was feeling very lonely. A lot of my friends weren't talking to me anymore, a lot of business. It was like very hard time when I came to Texas. And I went to an event near my town that I live in. And it was like David Avocado Wolf and like hippies from Malibu. And then there was like Christian right wing people and then like farmers. And they were all there.
Yeah.
Holding hands, hugging, getting along, like hundreds people over one thing and one thing only, and that was freedom.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, that's amazing. All these sects that, sects of community have a common bond. And that's how important that is to them.
I know it's like, the only thing I can think about is just being a lover of history. When you look at the founding fathers and the founding mothers of this country, like they had so many differences. Like they didn't get along on so many things, but they had a common bond of like a larger of like freedom. Yeah. And I do feel like that there's that energy is here again, where it's like, let's have a peaceful revolution.
Yeah, exactly.
But like a revolution of ideas.
Yes. I mean, it can be a golden era. It can be. I think all of us are like a little tentative.
I know. We're like, where's the way?
Can it happen?
Yeah. Right. Because we know.
We know it's also, I mean, it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
This is still.
TBD.
Yeah.
TBD. But we know that the sick care system cannot get well. The soil cannot regenerate. The junk food industry cannot get clean until Washington gets out of bed with the things that are hurting us.
And Food Babe, like we all know what this is interesting. It's all happening at the same time. It's actually brilliant because I think that awakened a lot of moms too. Like, wait, Fruit Loops is different here than it is in Europe? How can that be?
Right.
We've known this for years, but people are awake. They're poisoning us.
Yeah.
They are poisoning us.
Yeah. And a lot of people within our community in the wellness world would say, like, when we went to Michigan and rallied at Kellogg's at headquarters, they said,
were there?
Yeah, you needed to be there. Next time,
my God,
you should have been front and center.
I know.
Why weren't you there?
Are you kidding? They'd be like, okay, hold her back.
You'd be levitating in Michigan. But a lot of the wellness world was like, none of you guys eat Fruit Loops. Why are you caring? Just don't eat cereal. And that's true. We don't eat cereal. But the point that Jason Karp and Kelly Means and Vonnie make is that there are many low-income families in the United States where most of Kellogg's, a lot of percentage of their food goes into this public school system. Right. And the kids don't even have a choice.
And that's more heartbreaking.
That's where they're feeding.
Yeah.
That's their food.
I remember I had, I don't know if you know Ron, he was the gangster farmer in South Central LA.
No, I don't.
Oh, he's incredible. I had him when I had my blog, I had him on there because he created a farm, like a huge organic farm in his yard in LA and then started growing on the sidewalks and they tried to shut him down. And it was like, he said, when you print or when you grow organic food, it's like printing money. And that was always like something I thought like that would be the revolution, like bringing these organic farms to these inner cities, like really changing it from, because that is, I mean, I'm sure for you too, it was once the diet, like once I realized I could feel good from foods, it was such a like aha moment.
Yeah. Larea, I have a friend, her name's Larea. Do you know Larea? She has a nonprofit. They were in Skid Row in LA, but I don't know. I think they just might be in New York and Atlanta now. Anyways, it's called Lunch on Me. Everyone should look it up because she serves organic food to the homeless of all of these. Oh my gosh,
bless her.
Those people are fed horrible food.
Oh my gosh,
it's perpetuating the problem.
Yeah,
and they're putting.
And the schools are equal. I mean,
similar.
Our youngest, most vulnerable, the brightest people, kids are getting
food that feeds part of the problem. Yeah. My friend, this has been a great
so
conversation.
Passionate and excited for things.
So yes, we're hopeful, right? We're hopeful.
We're hopeful. And anything you would like to share with us?
No, you give me all the wisdom. As you know, the podcast is called The Art of Being Well. At the end, this is your Art of Being Well. This is Shiva Rose's Art of Being Well. First question is, what's the worst tasting healthy food that you eat? It's disgusting. You only do it for the benefits, not the taste. Oh my
gosh.
Anything?
I'm pretty not disciplined in that area.
That's okay. If it's nothing, then it's nothing.
Shilajit sometimes can be, depending on the brand.
That's what Jason Karp said.
Yeah, it can be. It can have this like weird.
Was it Jason Karp that said it? I think it was.
Fecal.
Yeah.
Fecal. Sometimes, depending on where you're getting your Shilajit.
That's a good answer. Next question. What is somewhere that you've traveled to that should be on someone's bucket list? Like what is not enough people know about it?
Well, I shouldn't. Well, everyone knows about Kauai, but that's like my heart.
Yeah.
And I love Tuscany. China. I mean, I don't know what things will be like, but China, like I loved China. The mountains of China blew me away.
Which part? Like, where do you go?
It was outside of Shanghai. I should know the province, but it was like I went with my tea group and we did tea ceremonies up on these top mountains. And by the way, the cleanest, when you get out of the city, it's like pristinely clean. It's like amazing. So crazy.
I wanted to ask you about that, actually. I'll deviate for a second. The tea ceremonies, like what is it? I've always have seen for years you do them, but I need to be a part of one.
We have to do one together.
Yeah, I would love that.
I have a few friends in Pennsylvania, so I'll come visit. So tea ceremony is one of my medicines, and it's where we sit in meditation and I serve you tea. It's our teacher sort of took the ancient Chinese and Japanese version and simplified it because he wanted to connect us to nature and to the leaf. So it's very simple. It's done in a ceremonial way. And the tea is living tea where it hasn't been bastardized. It's just organic, picked from those ancient 100-year-old trees. Some are fermented, some are not. And it just gives you, it's like joyful, magical tea.
Wow. So it's like really a meditation.
It's a meditation, but the tea itself, you should see me before my tea. I am not like this.
Do you do it every day?
Every day.
So how long does it take?
Well, I do, for myself, I just wake up at sunrise, I watch the sunrise, and I drink 3 cups. But if I'm doing a ceremony, it can take an hour.
Okay. What's your favorite type of tea?
Well, there's 2 tea sites, globalteahut.com.
Okay.
They sell beautiful teas. I love purple teas they carry. And then my tea brother Colin has livingtea.net, and Gateway to Spirit is the one that I serve people that are just starting out.
Okay. And the purple teas, what are that? What kind of
Purple tea is beautiful. I almost brought you some, actually. I was thinking that. I was like, would he want some? It's can you imagine the polyphenols in that purple tea?
So it's still Camellia sinensis. It's still a tea, but it's just prepared a certain way.
Yes. But we prepare it, just with water, but the way it's been fermented makes it like a purple. Yes, like a pu'er.
Ah, wow. And I if I remember this, my wife and I, no shame, we watched the Kardashians.
Oh, boy.
And you were on there during tea ceremony. I'm like, that's my friend on the Kardashians.
No, I know. I don't know how I got roped in. Well, you know what? They were actually very sweet to me. And I used to do Courtney. I would go.
Yeah, they love health. I love it.
Well, actually, guess who was Courtney's, like who she would ask for? She would ask me about what kind of organic sheets to get, what kind of bedding to get, what kind of... Again, pre-goop. I've been around a long time.
Yeah, you're the advisor to all the Kardashians.
Yeah.
And I have to say real fast, shout out to Kim Kardashian, Khloe, and Kourtney, all shared about the Kellogg's on their stories.
I'm so glad.
Yeah,
I'm so glad they did.
And
I was going to say Kourtney, and then she took the wellness and really moved it with it, which I'm so grateful to, because ultimately we want the world to be healthy.
Absolutely.
And I used to do ceremonies for that. They just loved it. So it was very sweet.
Amazing.
I didn't realize the show.
You showed up in those cameras.
Yeah. We won't talk about that. Only because, the way they edit things, it's like crazy.
Yeah, well, they make, I don't remember how they edited it, but did they make
I think there was just some funny looks I was giving them.
Oh, meanwhile, it wasn't. Yeah, they always do that, right?
Yeah.
To make it look shady or awkward.
Yeah, shady or awkward or
TV. Power of editing. All right, next question is, what's somewhere you haven't been to, but it's on your bucket
Iceland.
list?
Have
I've
you
never
been there?
No, but I heard it's like otherworldly, like Hawaii.
I want to go so bad. Yes.
Different.
And India, I'd love to go to India. But Iceland, I think I really need to go.
Yeah. It's on my list for sure. Yeah. Do you take supplements? You mentioned Shilajit. Do you take supplements? And what are 2 supplements are like the non-negotiables for you? Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. My poor partner, that's the one thing. Like, we live in a very small cottage, and he's like, I don't get all these supplements. Like, I have so many supplements. I'm sure you do too.
Yeah.
So I experiment. But iodine, I feel, is very important. Like, I think that would be my desert island.
Okay.
Magnesium. What else? There's so right now I'm doing organ meats.
Okay.
Because I really noticed it. Yes, because I really noticed it's helping my hair and hormones.
Yeah,
so
love it.
Yeah.
What's a book that you've read? It could be fiction or nonfiction. I'm getting in the Art of Being Well book club running list. Anything that was paradigm shifting for you that you've read?
That was like health related.
Doesn't have to be health.
Well, Dr. Christian Northrup's book saved my life when I was going through hormonal issues, because I started having hormonal issues in my 30s from trauma, and then now they're fine. In my 50s, my hormones are better than ever. It's like crazy how that can happen.
Yeah.
Again, for anyone, it's secular. It can come and go.
Yeah.
So I'd say Dr. Christian Northrup's books. I think there's one, Age Like a Goddess. That's great. Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom. And then fictional, Mists of Babylon is like always. And Women Who Run with Wolves.
That's been on the list before.
Yes, I'm sure.
Yeah. This is going to be a good question for you. What's the weirdest or most out of the box, unconventional wellness thing that you've done that you're willing to admit on a podcast?
Leeches, isn't that?
Yeah, right. We may have gone there already.
I think we went there.
Anything in that like Hall of Fame?
I do yoni steams, and I do a yoni egg practice.
You are the reason why yoni eggs were even
I know
a
people
thing.
don't even know that.
I know
that. You know.
I know. It's this lady right here. Why everyone talks about yoni eggs?
I'm sorry, Gwyneth. I got Goob in trouble because back in the day, they had me write an article on yoni eggs and jade eggs. And I actually introduced Gwyneth to it. And she was like so excited. And then she did something on Goop and the article, and then the whole world, started, which tried to burn us at the stake. It was very familiar to like women being called, crazy. By the way, this has been done thousands of years in China. It's not, woo-woo. It really works.
Yeah.
We imagine you have a room in the house and you're not using it. That's what I tell women, your yoni space, your womb space, like it's one of the most powerful places. And the egg actually makes your canals more sensitized. So, that can stop with incontinence, right? Like when you have issues with holding your pee, your pelvic floor. When you have children, you've got to rehabilitate that.
Yeah.
How are you going to do that? And doing with the Kegel doesn't always work because many women do it wrong and it actually causes more damage. So the egg is a tool that's been used for thousands of years that can help a woman really gain sovereignty. And I mean, I feel like my whole life changed.
Yeah.
When I was cut off, even after having 2 children, I was just cut off down there.
So something that's been used thousands of years, you've seen lots of benefits. There's a lot of anecdotal, like people around that culture use it. But when Goop did the article, the world freaked out.
The world freaked out and they had to I think they got legal too.
Because the words that were used?
There was a gynecologist who was not really, I don't know what issue, who went after them saying it was not true and you could get toxic shock syndrome, which again, you get toxic shock from the tampons that are made of GMO chemical laden cotton. You don't get it from a real jade egg that I sell privately if you want one, but it's like it's called neophrite jade, and you can't. That's like the purest thing. It doesn't absorb the bacteria, whereas like tampons are what causes that.
It's interesting that that's another thing we have in common is that I was having a conversation with Gwyneth on my podcast and even the books. Like, I feel like everything I would do would get taken out of context. And it's like, she goes through so much junk. It's like, she's just trying to live her damn life.
I know.
It's like, leave her alone.
I know. But you know what? She's successful, so it's working. I think women probably have learned to tune it out. Yeah.
It's like, the world is cruel.
It is cruel. And that's why I'm an ex-actor. And I'm convinced that's why I'm still here with you. And I'm sure why Gwyneth is so successful, because as an actor, the number one thing you have to learn is not to take things personally because you get rejected 99.9% of the time.
Yeah.
So I think only Stella Adler, my favorite acting teacher, said to be an actor, you have to have the skin of a rhinoceros and the soul of a rose. And I think that's my favorite motto because truly you have to be tough on the outside, but maintain your wonder and curiosity and humanity. I mean, that's a fine line to do.
Yeah. Yeah, this is true. She told me once that those who go through the weeds first get scraped. Like, that's another way of putting it in our modern culture. It's like you talk about something that's been going for thousands of years, but our hubris today, it's like you created it.
How dare you?
you decided to make that a thing.
Right.
Yeah. My friend, where do people go to learn about all the amazing work that you're doing?
Thank you. Local Rose is my Instagram. I have a book called Whole Beauty on how I healed myself.
It's a beautiful book, by the way.
Thank you.
I got it years ago when it came out. Yeah. What year was that?
A couple years now. I know. It's crazy. Like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And then Shiva Rose Beauty is my skincare. And you can find all that on my blogs.
What's your favorite of your skincare line? What's your favorite product?
Well, the Glow Balm is pretty much like it sells out all the time. It's like a beautiful, glowing, very natural, but just your skin absorbs it and it gives you a glow. I would say that one.
Thanks, friend.
Thank you.